Generally, security is a healthy game between two parties, where one party is the developer of the system and another party is an attacker of the system. The developer's goal is to protect system resources, whereas the attacker's goal is to disturb system's functionality or to destroy system resources and so on. Let us see how this game is devised between two parties, where one can have good intention and the other has a bad intention. Let us assume there are two friends, Arun and Brijesh, and they are in two different cities. They decide to spend winter vacation together in a place and they want to finalize where to go. Their initial thoughts were, Brijesh wants to be in Paris, but Arun prefers to visit India. Finally, they were unable to resolve this issue, that is, no one gives up. So, what is the solution? They decide to toss a coin over phone, and based on its outcome, either Brijesh or Arun wins the game, that is, they will go to his favorite place. Ideal situation: Arun wins if the coin face is heads and Brijesh wins if the outcome is tails. Now, over phone, Arun and Brijesh pick a number and communicate them to each other. Arun first and Brijesh next. The result? If the sum of these numbers is odd, then Arun wins, else Brijesh. What they are going to do over phone is as follows. Arun picks a number x and sends it to Brijesh. Brijesh picks a number y and sends the value of y to Arun. Now, as per rule of the game, Arun wins if x plus y is odd and Brijesh wins if x plus y is even. Interestingly, Arun never wins the game. Do you know why? Well, after seeing the number selected by Arun, Brijesh picks a number such that x plus y is always odd. This logic to make this objective is easy, that is, odd plus odd is equal to even and even plus even is also equal to even. So, whatever type odd or even picked by Arun, Brijesh is going to pick the same type and become winner of the game. So, Brijesh has bad intention and cheats Arun. After realizing Brijesh's strategy, Arun now asks Brijesh to share his number first, but Brijesh rejects this as he knows the weakness of this solution approach. So, how to get rid of this? Let us change the solution approach. Arun picks a number x and sends value of z is equal to function of x to Brijesh. Brijesh picks a number y and sends value of y to Arun. Arun now sends value of x to Brijesh and Brijesh checks if function of x matches with z that was sent before. Arun wins if x plus y is odd, Brijesh wins if x plus y is even. Here, the big assumption of the solution is, for every integer x, it is easy to compute function of x, but given any value of function of x, it is hard or rather infeasible to find any information about x. With this modified solution, Brijesh's previous strategy does not work, as he cannot learn anything about Arun's number from the first message that was received from Arun. That is, the shared value is a digest of the actual number, and he shares his number y with Arun without knowing x. Similarly, Arun cannot cheat Brijesh, as he has committed his selection of x in the first message itself, and he has to share the same x with Brijesh in the third message and Brijesh verifies it. Therefore, no one will be able to take advantage of weakness of another. However, the main assumption of this game is that there exists a cryptographic function that supports one-way communication and collision resistant properties. While assessing opponents, for example, attackers' strengths, one has to be aware of opponent's capability, what he can do and what not, whether he is passive or active, insider or outsider, etc. For example, a passive attacker can listen to a communication channel, but cannot alter the content in it, whereas an active attacker can add, delete, modify the content of the channel, and therefore, it is very important to consider the attacker's capability, which should be reasonable too, while assessing the security of an application or a system. Before designing a security solution for a system, it is essential to understand what are the security features that the system wants to achieve. Protection of a system's resources from whom? What are adversarial assumptions? Once the need of security for the system is clear against whom, the security solution with suitable primitives can be worked out in order to achieve the security objectives of the system. Now, we come to the third and final part of this lecture, in which we shall understand about the threats and attacks that can put the system under an attacker's control. At the same time, we will see how one could resist attacker's goal by providing appropriate safeguards to the system, so that the attacker cannot achieve his intended goal. Threats, vulnerabilities, attacks and risk all are linked to security of a system, but there are differences among these terms with respect to system and network security. We have already seen that threat is a potential cause of an unwanted incident, which may result in harm to a system, an individual or an organization. We also know that vulnerability is a weakness in a system which can be exploited by an attacker with the existing threats of the system. Attack is a state of the system which shows that the system fails to prove its security claims. Risk is the potential that a given threat will exploit vulnerabilities of a system to cause loss or damage to the system. It is quite understandable that a system can have one or multiple threats in it. However, if the system suffers from any attacks, then it must provide a mitigation mechanism that should prevent such attacks in future. Importantly, the risk management of a system acts as negotiator between threat, vulnerability and tolerance. It is noted that threat scenarios vary from application to application. For example, web application may suffer from threats of phishing, spoofing, replay, etc. A transport system can suffer from jamming, hijacking, misbehaving, etc. If an enterprise runs its services without a proper configuration of firewall, even though the firewall is a high-end latest tool, not making users aware about what do's and don'ts they have to follow, then an attacker can use this weakness for getting into the enterprise systems that can put the system under control of the attacker. Therefore, attack is an action that compromises the security of information and computer assets. For instance, data leak is a threat that may exist in a system, whereas unauthorized access to the system is an attack that has to be stopped and handled properly. Similarly, data manipulation is a threat and tampered data is an attack. facing a new virus is a threat and data deletion is an attack, and so on. Thus, we can see that threats are always going to be there. So, minimizing threats in a system would be the real goal of system developer, isn't it? One threat may be eliminated, but another new threat can arise. The game between attacker and defender is quite challenging and expensive too. If we look at the changing trend of attack defense model of some scenarios, the picture will get clear. In the earlier days, a system administrator's defense strategy was to prevent intrusions for host, network and application server. So, when the system administrator configures a detection system for defending the host or network, he or she keeps outside intruders into consideration primarily. However, the modern defender system should consider intrusions of both outsider and insider. In fact, insider intrusion is more powerful than outsider. Several security breaches incidents took place in recent times because of insider intrusions. Therefore, modern defense should include extrusion in addition to the classical intrusion. Tackling extrusion is perhaps the most difficult challenge in cybersecurity. How to protect personal knowledge, which carries huge information from one organization to another? How to prevent misuse of such crucial knowledge which one can utilize for business profit, border protection and similar contexts? Let us take another scenario on password based system. Password is widely used in many real world systems. So, the password of the user must be non-guessable, isn't it? The changing trend is, instead of a simple password, have a strong password. However, one should first understand the exact purpose of this strong password. You may say that strong password is a mix of alphanumeric symbol with special character and uppercase letters. Will that make the password strong? The answer is, it depends. Even though you satisfy the requirement of alphanumeric, length, uppercase, special character, still the password could be subject to guessing attack and impersonation attack. Another related issue is how to memorize all these strong passwords. Well, we will make all these clear in one of the upcoming lectures. Till that time, assume that you are selecting a strong password for your application. So, the changing trend to avoid some threats, for example, guessing, replay on password based system is moving from single factor password to multiple factors password token based user authentication. In this context, it is assumed that attacker may guess the user's password, but does not have the user's token. And to access the system, the user requires to enter his password and an OTP, that is a numeric 6 to 8 digits PIN that comes to the user's registered phone or email. Therefore, it is easy to see that if you overcome one threat, then it is likely that an attacker can give you another threat that you require to handle and manage wisely for addressing the intended security objective of the system. However, elimination of vulnerabilities with respect of one or more threats highly relies on the security policy, standards and guidelines adopted for a system that aims to achieve its intended security objectives. A policy may have many standards associated. A standard should have only one policy associated. A standard may have many guidelines associated. In an enterprise application, if the policy says user password should be changed in every fortnight, but if it is not practiced by users, then password guessing vulnerability will become a prominent threat. If we look at the slide, the policy says access to network resource is accessible to authorized user based on his or her credentials, for example, password. The authority of that system wants employee's password should be of 8 characters, which can be considered as standard for the system that is used in that organization. The procedure and practice guides us that password of user should have one special character. So, what we can see from this is, even though the policy allows users to access system resources by their privileges, if users do not change their password, do not follow the stipulated length and guidelines of the password while selecting their passwords, then the intended security of the system may not be achievable because of threats such as password guessing, stolen verifier, etc. Security of a system assured based on certain parameters such as policy, specifications and risk assessment and management to ensure that bad things do not happen and system resources can be protected against attacks. Finally, achieving security objectives for a system needs substantial technical and managerial efforts and money as well. Given a security policy specification of secure and non-secure actions, the security mechanism must be able to prevent the attack, detect the attack or recover from the attack. However, high assurance implies high cost. So, there must be a good deal of negotiations between security and efficiency of a system while claiming its security features and efficiency. A simple analogy is that if you wish to buy a high-end lock to protect your house, then you have to pay more for that lock. Let us summarize this lecture with the following note. Threats can be always a part of any system. It is important to check whether the existing threat is minor or major. If major, then move to the next step. Vulnerability in a system must be addressed with care, otherwise bad guys can get into the system by exploiting the vulnerability. If vulnerability of a system is exploited, then an attack took place. It is important to stop the attackers at the earliest, so the system can face least damage. Risk management is an essential exercise that the authority of a system should consider worth spending, which can address the above 3 steps wisely and in time from attacks, accidents and failures.